Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of The Real Radar with Sam and Mason. I'm Sam.
My name's Mason. This is our podcast.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about films, movies, TV shows, all that stuff right here.
So today's going to be really what we want to talk about is just kind of establish the podcast, what we want from it, establish who we are just as filmmakers, why we wanted to get together and make a podcast like this. And hopefully, as we create more and more episodes and do more and more things, that it just creates a really fun environment and has a really fun community. So
For sure, yeah, that's the whole point. Like, this is like a passion of ours, like film and like watching movies and also like making stuff. But we want to make like a community project where like we're going to be watching some films and maybe you guys can join in too. Then we're going to have a discussion. That's kind of what this is all about, you know?
For sure.
Yeah. So that's it, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, to start things off, I feel like let's just introduce ourselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go first, Sam?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
My name is Sam Garvey. Currently, I'm a senior in college right now. I'm a music ed major. I specialize in piano. And although I don't do much with it, I really love filmmaking and the art of filmmaking. I remember watching the Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when I was 4 or 5, you know? And, and from that moment, I was really hooked just with the art of filmmaking. Like, I was like, how do they make lightsabers on screen? Like, how do you create something like so otherworldly, you know? And so from a very young age, I really always enjoyed film. So I'm glad to be doing something like this. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's funny you bring up The Phantom Menace. The first time I saw that was the first Star Wars movie I saw. So, like, watching that, thinking that was, like, the first film, because, you know, episode 1. Yeah. And then I got to, like, episode 4, and I'm like, why does it look bad all of a sudden?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
which
I think now it's, like, a more mature. I actually prefer the original trilogy more.
Right.
And, like, the special effects. But, like, when I was young, I thought the CGI looked so good.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I
For
mean?
sure. For sure.
I guess from my background of film, I've always been just fascinated and taken away by a lot of different like mediums. Film really speaks to me because it's all about like movement and you can tell so much story. Like in a book, yeah, you have words and everything. I love reading, but with film, you can like it'd be so subtle with like music cues or just like shadows, you know, lighting, all that stuff, and that's just like something I love about film, the artistic part of it.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I guess the next, to further introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
I guess, and I'll pass this question on to you first, Mason.
Yeah.
I guess as prospective filmmakers, or even just like like for freelance work or just for fun.
Yeah.
What do you see yourself like or what do you see yourself doing like as a director or like as just somebody that likes film and filming and doing creative things?
Yeah, so like what like type of films I want to make or like
Sure, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Like I have my own YouTube channel. I'm sure I'm going to be like broadcasting this everywhere, but Chief of Bricks, and I make like short films and stuff, as you know.
Sure.
And in the moment it's all been like comedy and more like jokes, you know, like shorts, films, sketches, skits, stuff like that. And I love doing that. But truly the stuff I want to make is more like thought-provoking, maybe philosophical, with a little bit of humor, you know, in between.
Yeah.
How about you, Sam?
Personally, I think for me, I think, I agree with you on the philosophical part.
Sure.
I think a movie that makes me think, or even something that I can just see is well made, and that there's something, that there was a vision put into it, a creative vision for it, is really what fascinates me with a movie. And so while I am a huge fan of like style, you know, and how movies can have like or like a noir theme or something like that, or I really do like the quality of a movie really comes from its characters. And so what I like to do is, even if I'm not directing something, I want to write a story. I want to know that I put my heart and soul into it, and that the final product I'm happy with, you know.
So you said like movies should be character driven. Is that your?
I think maybe not even character. Yes, yes,
or it's
yes
just, like,
and
really
no.
Integral.
I do think like I mean like if you have movies with characters, I think character driven. That's usually the stuff that I tend to resonate with.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if a movie brings across a narrative theme well,
Sure.
you know, I don't know. I think it's very multifaceted, I guess. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, like life. I feel like we're all characters at the end of the day. Like
yeah,
So I mean, like film does a really good job of like imitating life.
right.
What were like some like if we had to pick like your top 5 favorite films, like what would you say for that, Sam?
It's oh man, I think for me as I think about like what movies I like, it's less of like I have like one favorite movie of all time, but I feel like if I were to list my top 5, at least for me, it would just be a tier. Like I hold them all at the same,
like the S tier of films,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think if I were to list 5, and sometimes I'll like forget about a movie and then remember it exists, and I'm like, wait a minute, no, that's on my top 5.
Yeah.
But I think if I were to list top 5 favorite movies, I'm a hardcore Star Wars fan. So I mean, Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. I'm a really big fan of that one, especially in recent years when I started to watch it again. The next one's a little weird, but Shrek 2. Honestly,
2.
I mean,
wow, that hits your top 5.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's funny.
Maybe it's just nostalgia sakes for me because I remember watching it as a kid.
Yeah.
But I remember watching it maybe like a year or two ago as an adult, and then seeing like I actually think this movie's legitimately funny and like well made, and I thought it was a really nice build up to like the first Shrek.
Can we talk about Shrek 2 real quick?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
So it's not my top 5, but I think Shrek 2 is actually like a great movie, and like you wouldn't expect that from like the sequel of this animated movie about an ogre. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the Shrek 2 is really, really funny, but it's also like kind of like I guess like a criticism of a lot of like the normal like I don't know if you ever thought about that, like the normal like Disney princess films. Far, Far Away is like Hollywood.
Right.
I think that's so funny.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, and I think it's funny that they put like Simon Cowell into it. When they made, I love my favorite part of that movie.
Yeah.
Is when they have knights, but they spoof cops.
Oh yeah.
And then they shove a pepper grinder into their face like it's pepper spray.
That's so funny.
I forgot about it for many years, and as a kid, I was just like, what's going on when I watched it. But to see that spoof, it was just like I laughed out loud. Like it's very, very funny,
hilarious.
very creative.
Yep.
Just very good humor in that movie.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think I guess for my other favorite movies. These ones are gonna be hard. I think
you got 3 more.
Yeah. I think hands down, and I saw this recently. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a lot.
I'm sure we will later.
Yeah.
It's an incredible film.
That'll probably be its own episode.
Most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good movie. It's a great movie.
That's a recent film too.
Very recent.
This year. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that movie, I don't know. It was able to reach me in ways that like usually movies can't. Reach me, you know, and I found an emotional connection with it. At least maybe just when you're analyzing like just like family issues and being around who you are and wondering if finding your meaning in the universe and maybe finding meaning in life when maybe there isn't any meaning.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's a very philosophical film despite it being like very grounded in humanity and like it's so powerful.
Right.
It's so funny too. It's such a hilarious film.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of everything, honestly.
Well, and I think that at least for me, like when I think about directing things and the stories I want to tell, it's such a perfect blend of like style, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. Yeah. But then at the end of the day, you finish the film going like, wow, I really watched something great, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Because you have a great family tale, you know, it's got wacky humor.
Yep.
But then, I mean, you have like incredibly well-directed fight scenes. You know,
it's got like insane fight scenes, like without spoiling anything, like like the whole fanny pack part, like.
Oh yeah.
Like if you haven't watched Everything Ever All at Once, you need to watch that.
It's an incredible film. Yeah, very, very, very good. And my last 2.
That's tough.
I feel like I feel like the first three are definitely solid. Like they're definitely my three most favorite. These next two might change. They changes from month to month.
These more
for
like
me.
honorable mentions, like.
I guess
These
so.
are the
Yeah,
ones
we'll
that can
call it
swap in
that.
and out,
Yeah,
know?
because I bet by tomorrow I'll remember another movie that I really liked and be like, oh wait, no,
yeah.
that's not part of it.
For sure.
So I guess, oh man, this is a little controversial.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's another Star Wars.
Real? Oh no.
It's Attack of the Clones,
Oh man.
and I think that's another
Sam.
nostalgia factor
Sam, bro.
for me. I don't know. I mean, I love that everybody. Well, everybody hated on the prequel trilogy, and it's getting a little more love now that the sequels came out.
Sure. Yep.
But you know, that's another nostalgia thing for me. Like I remember watching Attack of the Clones and like seeing Anakin like chase Zam Wesell through Coruscant in the beginning scene.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Obi-Wan dueling with Jango Fett. I just thought it was the coolest stuff ever.
Oh yeah.
Do
you remember how old you were when you watched that?
Oh man, I probably about as old as I was when I watched The Phantom Menace.
Okay.
So
yeah.
like I mean
yeah.
maybe like 5 or 6, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
So maybe it's just a nostalgia factor for me.
Could be. Yeah.
Because I mean like there's certainly like now like as a kid I was like, "Oh yeah, Anakin and Padme yeah, whatever."
Of course.
And as an adult
yeah.
you're like, "Why is he talking about sand?" Like what point does this have,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I still think that there's a lot of heart in it,
Sure.
you know, it despite its pretty goofy flaws.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? I actually don't know what the 5th one is. I might just
really keep it ambiguous for now.
I might
Okay.
reveal it in a later episode. But yeah, let's
Oh.
move on to you.
Great.
Yeah, what are yours?
I'm gonna get out of the way. I'm gonna do the same thing. It's kind of like on a tier list. You could like swap these back and forth. You know, there's so many like films I love and discovering new ones like, you know, all the time. One we already talked about, Everything Ever All at Once. We're not gonna talk about it more. But
Yeah.
Yep, that's definitely on my top 5. I saw that and I was just like blown away. Awesome film. Probably, I might technically call this one my favorite film. Not that it's like the best film I've seen, but
Sure.
so much nostalgia. I think probably like same reasons, like maybe like Attack of the Clones, you know?
Yeah.
You ever seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
No, actually, I've not.
Yeah, that is like an insane film, kind of like Everything Over All at Once, where it's just like, it's so fast. Stuff keeps on happening.
Sure.
It's kind of like a video game movie, even though it's based off a comic book.
Yeah, I've seen like clips from it. Yeah.
It's got a really unique editing style. It's like really in your face. It's got a lot of fun fight scenes. Humor really adds it for me. That was the first movie. I think it's probably my favorite because it was the first movie that had me like thinking. It's not really philosophical at all, but the fact that there's so many things like hidden in the background without spoiling that like I kept on rewatching it when I was like in my adolescence and like as an adult, and I would just notice more and more like things in the background and like foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciated. Yeah. So that's like 2 of my 5.
Sure.
Oh gosh, let me think. I'm a big guy who just likes directors, and I'll kind of like watch all the films from this one director. Do you feel like that way at all sometimes, or is that just me?
Yeah. No, I mean when a director makes something and I really like them, like generally I'm more inclined to watch them.
Right.
Yeah.
There's like a predisposition.
So there's definitely like a style that they have that I'm drawn towards for sure.
Gravitate towards. Yeah, absolutely. For me, one of those directors like Wes Anderson. A lot of times, like I think some people call you like pretentious if you like Wes Anderson. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Call me pretentious. I don't care. I like a lot of his films. He's got a unique style. Have you seen anything from him?
Oh man, I've seen Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yep. That's the film I was gonna put on the list.
Oh, cool.
Love the Grand Budapest Hotel. Grand Budapest Motel. Yeah, fantastic film.
Yeah.
Yep. 2 more. I guess I'm like in a similar situation as Sam, where it's like these are kind of flexible, but I would say like any Quentin Tarantino film would like take my top 5.
Sure.
Have you watched a lot of Quentin Tarantino?
I've really only seen Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
I never really watched him. I mean, my parents just never liked him,
Sure,
and I mean, he certainly pushes the envelope with like
uh-huh.
harsh stuff. So I mean,
Yeah, sure.
So I was just never. I never watched Quentin Tarantino because I wasn't old enough, you know. But I did watch Pulp Fiction recently, and I really liked it. So I definitely plan on watching them.
I recommend it. Pulp Fiction's great. That was like my first Tarantino film, despite like that one's crazy. Like,
oh yeah,
I guess that's the only one you've seen. Like that's like one of his more like brutal films.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to like pick one Tarantino film, I'd say Reservoir Dogs, and it's like one of his more earlier films.
Yeah,
and it's, Pulp Fiction draws a lot from it, but it's really good. It's very like dialogue focused, and it's just like lots of dialogue, and it's really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
As for my last film, I was thinking about this mentally before we started this episode, but now I'm just gonna pick something from the hat. Oh goodness. All right. I'm just gonna. Have you ever seen Watchmen? You ever seen Watchmen?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is probably one of those ones that you could change. I like Watchmen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a superhero film, but it's not really like about superheroes. It's like it's a lot of social and political commentary.
Yeah.
I'd say Watchmen.
Well, and it definitely, it definitely deconstructs superheroes.
Oh yeah,
I think,
absolutely.
or just the idea, because it's like if you put superheroes, and Zack Snyder definitely takes some liberties.
Yeah.
In making the characters more epic than the comic book did.
For sure.
Because Alan Moore, I believe, was the guy who wrote the original.
Yeah.
It was very like you could see that certain characters in the story were like, and I still think this resonates in Zack Snyder's because I think it's still pretty faithful.
Oh yeah,
despite some of its changes.
Yeah. Have you read the comic?
I had it. I never read it, but I knew about like what the differences were in the comic books, and I had flipped through it. But I think what I do like about that movie is like if somebody is willing to put on like a costume and like go fight crime, like are they always like the noble stoic sort of people
as like comics portray them,
right?
Like a Superman or like a Spider-Man, something like that.
So I think it was definitely interesting to see like the different types of people that could be motivated to put on a costume and go fight crime and like work outside the law.
Yeah, and what are their motivations?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I love about Watchmen. I guess I really like that film because it made me think about superheroes once because we're bombarded by like so much like superhero like media.
Right.
And like you have the Marvel, DC, the MCU and all that. And like my cynical opinion is that I feel like Marvel is at least kind of going downhill recently. What do you feel about that?
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So like at not super young, but like late adolescence, I watched Watchmen, and it made me like really think about the genre.
Yeah.
And it introduced me to the comic, and I love the comic. It's one of my favorites. Sure.
Yeah. No, I think the stories like those make you see superheroes more as like real legitimate characters. Because I mean, like, how many times can we just go watch like Iron Man go fight the next guy,
the next like big suited guy.
Right. and there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
Sure,
but it's just when you but when you get into like, it can get exhausting. When it's just like like have Thor go fight another dude. But like if you could have Thor, if you explore Thor emotionally, and then you fight another dude, and you really deconstruct what it means to be a god or something like that. Like your
That'd be
humanity,
great. That'd be fantastic.
Stuff like that. Yeah. I think. So I think Watchmen really touches on that.
For sure.
And not. I feel like people can use the word deconstruct a lot when they talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
But it does look at it. It magnifies what they are. Could a superhero, somebody that calls themselves a hero, take on like an opinion we don't agree with? Or take on an extremist opinion. Do they themselves believe that they're a superhero? Like, what are the lines between good and evil? And how do we rise above it as heroes / villains? And is the distinction between like it's not just a world of like Mr. Good and Dr. Evil. It's
there's a lot of gray area.
Yeah.
And like, I'm surprised we're talking about Watchmen so much. But what I really liked about it. It's very. There's like a common like theme. I feel like is that, like, do the ends justify the means?
Right.
We might have to do an episode on this.
Sure. Yeah. We could.
Yeah, but I think about that a lot. Like, Yeah, for sure.
Was Watchmen your fifth?
I guess so.
That was your fifth?
That was my fifth. Yep.
Then I guess as an honorable mention, as I kind of thought about it, I don't know if it's on the tier list of my favorite movies, but have you ever seen the movie Hook with Robin Williams?
Is that the Peter Pan.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I haven't seen. I've only seen clips.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Talk about it. Yeah.
I had forgotten about that movie for so many years. I had enjoyed it as a kid.
Yeah.
Didn't really appreciate it 100%. But as an adult, I remember John Williams' score for that movie just being really striking.
Oh, really?
And like even as a kid, just being
rewatch that.
Yeah, like just the music in that soundtrack, it's just like it hits me on an emotional level, like way more than other films that I've had. Yeah,
yeah.
But and it's certainly like it's a very like cheery film, but it's about basically, without spoiling a whole lot of it, although it is an older movie. Basically, Robin Williams plays
Peter Pan, right?
Like, yeah, well, he plays like a father, and he ends up meeting like, or he's like an old man. He's like, or not an old man, but an older man, and he's a businessman, and he doesn't have time for his kids, and he's an adult. And so basically, the story is, what if Peter Pan grew up? Because he said he would never grow up.
Oh,
you know.
Okay.
And so he becomes everything he fears as an adult, essentially, and he doesn't have time for his kids, and I don't know if this is. You know what? This movie's so old. I feel
like I can get the theme. Of what's going on.
Right.
Yeah,
so basically,
this is the spoiler warning right now. Okay.
Basically, at the beginning of the movie, something happens where Captain Hook finds Wendy's old house, and Wendy's super old.
Oh, really?
She's
elderly,
like, yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, very, very, very old. And he kidnaps Peter Pan's kids, and so Tinkerbell takes him to Neverland, and he just sort of has to regain what made him Peter Pan, and find the.
But he's an adult now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But look into himself and find his love for life again, and really and examine why he loves his kids and why he needs to be there for them. And so I think mixed with the score and really just and I think the emotional tale of it, I just really resonated with. But I mean I cannot say this enough, and I don't think this. I think it's a little underrated. The movie, the John Williams score for that is
fantastic.
Incredible. I would say not probably on par with Star Wars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a bold claim. I'll have to rewatch it sometime.
Yeah.
It seems like from how you described it, it kind of seems like the theme of like not giving up on like childhood.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the whole Peter Pan character is about.
Right.
You know, like I want to be a child forever. You just want to have fun. Which like, you do need to grow up eventually, but like from someone who hasn't watched it, I'm just assuming that like it's all about like looking back on that. You know, and like don't grow up too much.
Or in an essence, truly growing up.
Oh,
realizing that it's not. You don't
up.
just have to abandon the things you liked as a kid or
just
the things you liked in your youth. Yeah,
you don't have to give up your passion.
Right.
That's a really powerful message. I like that for sure. Yeah.
So I guess that's our favorite movies.
Is there any films you like and you're just like they're not good? That's like a weird.
They're not
question.
good.
Yeah, it's like I really like. It's like a guilty pleasure. Like I like this film, but like not everyone likes this. You know.
Okay. I don't want to say this one because
that's okay.
It's going to be another Star Wars.
Wow.
movie.
Wow.
It's going to be another one.
That's all right.
As we make more episodes, I'm sure viewers or listeners, you'll know that I'm a hardcore Star Wars fan. Very hardcore Star Wars fan.
I'm the antithesis of a Star Wars fan, so this will be interesting.
Hey, I mean, it'll be good. It'll be good for discussion.
This will be great. This will be great.
And I am in a very like small community of people. I like The Last Jedi.
Bro.
The most hated Star Wars film of all time. I don't know.
I think maybe we talked about this once, but now I'm just like remembering.
Yeah.
Why do you like The Last Jedi, Sam?
It all kind of made sense to me. And I the criticisms people have for it, I understand. So I'm not here to say if you don't like Luke being a little darker and Luke kind of being like reluctant to go help and save people.
Sure.
I think that's completely understandable,
Mm.
although I disagree. And there are some parts where I think the story obviously could have been written better.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not a
Yeah.
perfect movie,
Mm.
that's for sure. But I think it was just able to do something for me that I didn't get from The Force Awakens, and I wasn't
Sure.
feeling from any other Star Wars
Yeah.
content, at least in the new Disney stuff.
Yeah. It does have a completely different tone if you like compare it to
Right.
The Force Awakens. 'Cause Force
Yeah.
Awakens, I'll give it that. Force Awakens just feels like very Star Warsy, you know, like
Mhm.
kind of like an
Mhm.
amusement park.
Yeah,
Where it's just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
This is Star Wars, everyone. Look, it's Star Wars. We're back. Whereas like Last Jedi was like very
It was
different.
different. Yeah, yeah.
So I can appreciate it for that at least. Yeah.
Well, and I think The Force Awakens was, and I do, I think the criticisms for this movie, or for The Force Awakens, my major one is that it just felt like A New Hope.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
It's
a
like
bunch
this-
of people travel with an old man around the galaxy,
Yeah.
and then he dies, and then they have a duel with the guy, and then
There's a
the
giant, like-
planet-killing weapon gets
Yeah.
destroyed.
Yeah.
Is that A New Hope or The Force Awakens? It's both.
It's the
You know,
same.
yeah.
It's the exact same.
And then there's a trench
Yeah.
run too, so it's like, yeah,
It's just like a worse version of A New Hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe I guess I appreciate The Last Jedi because it tried to do something new with
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
even if it's controversial, you know. And I think
Sure.
as I look at stuff like now, and we have like big franchise movies, and I think the more like, I guess, milquetoast they get to be,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
very like, I guess, like audience friendly, like where they don't want to make people
Sure.
too
Yep.
mad, but they're
Yep.
not really going to go and do anything incredible.
For sure.
I just think The Last Jedi tried to do something creative,
Mm.
and even if it was disagreeable,
Sure.
it's still like, I could see what was trying to be said.
Sure.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, like
But-
it's weird. When it came out, I enjoyed watching it, but then like upon thinking about it, I just started hating the film. And
Mhm.
actually, I'm gonna say something nice about the film.
Sure.
And actually, I think it's funny that we have different opinions.
Yeah.
Because this podcast isn't supposed to be like argumentative or you
No.
know, or even
No.
in the comments. We don't really want it to be argumentative. We're just having a discussion, and that's
Yeah.
okay to have different opinions because we all have different perspectives and backgrounds.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I hated the film like shortly after watching it. But then The Rise of Skywalker came out, and
Yeah.
surprisingly,
Yeah.
I hated The Rise of Skywalker so much that it made me actually see all the good things about The Last Jedi. And
Mhm.
I wish that, because
Yeah.
the new trilogy, it was what J.J. Abrams directed the first film.
He directed the first and the last.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they had Rian Johnson direct The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And I really wish it would have just been either J.J. Abrams all the way throughout or Rian Johnson all the way throughout. Or
Yeah.
insert any director all the way throughout. Because, like, you had, like, George Lucas doing every single Star Wars film.
Right.
Not that you need George Lucas again, but at least, like, one creative vision for the whole trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
Yeah.
I started to value The Last Jedi more after I watched Rise of Skywalker,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Because it definitely had a clear direction that I don't think the first
Yeah.
and the last films didn't. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even if, like, they stuck with that direction in The Rise of Skywalker,
Yeah.
it just kind of felt like they did something else, you know?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. For me, I guess, like, the film, my guilty pleasure,
Sure.
I really like Godzilla films. Like, I'm a huge
Okay.
Godzilla fan. I'm not
Cool.
sure, like, I say, like, a guilty pleasure because a lot of them are, like, really cheesy and kind of, like,
Yeah.
dumb monster films.
Sure.
But it's still, like, Godzilla is, like, inbred in my DNA. Like, that's, like, what I grew up with as a kid. Always been a big, like, Godzilla nerd. I will say there's, like, a few good ones. Like, actually, like, wow, this is, like, a really good film. Most
Yeah.
of them are just, like, kind of fun, like, monster films.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
I probably should have put this on my top 5 list. Maybe I'll exchange
Tweak it.
Watchmen for this.
Sure.
Yeah. There's this one Godzilla film. It's called Shin Godzilla. I think it came out in.
Oh, I might know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's called Shin Godzilla, and I'll give you some background for the listeners and viewers who don't know.
Yeah.
So Godzilla was originally created in like 1954. That was the first film, and it was actually the original film is really good. It's about like it's an allegory for Hiroshima and World War II with the atomic bomb. That's what like Godzilla represents. and I really like that. And then eventually the Godzilla films just became like, as I said, like generic monster fight films, which is fine in a different way. And then this company Toho, they made like basically all of them. And then they eventually sold the rights to some American studios, and that's why we got a few American Godzilla films for the early 2000s.
Yeah,
and that's why we still like get like the new Godzilla films that are made by Legendary. But Shin Godzilla, Toho was like, okay, we're gonna make one last Godzilla film, and we're gonna make it like down to the roots. So it's very. Have you seen Shin Godzilla?
Is it the one? I don't want to spoil a whole lot, but there's this one where it was like.
I'll stop.
I remember seeing a clip where there's this like proto Godzilla.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
so
sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shin Godzilla is fantastic. I believe it actually won a bunch of awards in Japan. I would say it's like one of those few like. It's a gem. It's a truly great film.
Yeah.
Despite it being a Godzilla film of all things.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what if we took Godzilla, the whole concept, and we put it in real life, but like actually in real life, where like instead of it being like a monster fight film, it's like how does the government respond to this crisis? And it's this might sound boring, but the whole film is a bunch of people in meetings. It's bureaucracy.
Sure.
It's bureaucracy. The film, and that might sound really boring, but then it will cut back to like Godzilla like evolving and like changing, and it's about like the issue getting worse and worse. And like think about like without getting political, but think about like the pandemic per se. And,
yeah,
like,
sure.
You know, like if you take like a crisis like that, and then it just keeps getting worse and worse, and it's up to the people in the government and the bureaucracy to like solve those issues. And if you don't solve it fast and effectively, it's just going to evolve. And that's what Godzilla does during the film. The more they bicker and complain and don't make solutions, Godzilla gets like worse and worse, and it's really interesting.
That is really that's a really interesting take. I never really
that's
saw.
Spoiler free. There's more, there's actually some good stuff.
I never really saw Godzilla like that. Yeah. Because I mean, and I think sometimes like with stuff like that, especially like and if like examining like superhero films, or like not even just superhero films, but like flashy films like that, like where you got Godzilla, and it can turn into like a lot of these generic things. Those still can be like really good allegories for that, because I mean Godzilla, like that's a clear visual example of like a crisis,
exactly,
like a virus is hard to do because it's like a small thing and it's just making people sick,
microscopic.
But I mean, like it's a big giant lizard. Like destroying buildings, like the threat is just
Tokyo,
obvious,
bro.
But that can change the way you look at it as an audience, and you can put your mind in like a world leader. So that's a really interesting take on it. I think maybe I'll watch Shin Godzilla.
You should
at some point. Yeah,
it's fantastic. So that, actually put that one on my top 5. That one actually that might be like top 3. That's a really good, it's a really good film.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess so. We do have a little more time.
We got more time.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're about halfway. We're about 33 minutes in.
Nice.
So,
cool.
I guess maybe do you have another guilty pleasure?
Another guilty pleasure. How about like something like a little bit like less guilty? So it's just this is something I like, not like very like philosophical, just like something I enjoy.
Sure.
Big Back to the Future fan. Have you ever seen those films?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Love the Back to the Future movies. I'm sure we'll be doing an episode on all of our individual favorite movies at some point.
Sure. Yeah.
Big fan. Love Back to the Future. So much so I have like a whole like Marty McFly outfit. I have like the orange puffer vest and like the denim jacket. Love that.
Cool.
I like, this might sound weird, I like the fantasy of those films. Like it's like, what, you want to go back to the 1960s and almost like your mom fall in love with you? No, that's not the fantasy. That's not what I'm going for.
Yeah.
I just mean I found them very fun, light, humorous.
Yeah.
But still a little smart. Especially like how they connected each film, because
sure
they knew it was going to be a trilogy. They planned it out.
Okay.
Each film ends with a cliffhanger, and it's going to be another movie.
Yeah.
So
right,
love those films.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think I'm not as much of a fan of the second and third.
Yeah.
Just because I think they went off. They got a little goofy in some
They're a little
aspects
goofy.
of it,
Yeah,
and
they're
I
a
think
little goofy.
that's respectable. So I'm not saying the movie is bad because of it,
Sure.
and I can certainly watch it and enjoy it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it was missing some of some of what I liked from the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, the first
sure.
one, is a classic.
Absolute classic.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's a great
Cool.
mention.
Cool.
Back to the Future is very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the first one is like awesome, classic. A lot of people like the second one a lot. I like the second one, but I prefer the third one to the second, which is weird because like a lot of people don't like the third one.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess I like the Wild Western setting, and it gets comedic because the movies actually have a pretty small cast. If you didn't realize that, like they use like the same
They do
characters.
reuse, yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
like made old or young for the different generations.
Right.
And I just thought that was funny that they kept
That is cool.
going with that trope.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have
Yeah.
like another like less guilty pleasure or something that you just like, you know?
I guess yeah.
There's
So
so many films.
A movie that I just genuinely like. I think one that I just one I really like, and I watched it recently. Was Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Yeah, and especially Blade Runner 2049.
Is that the new one?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of the Blade Runner films.
Okay.
I think I know the general synopsis. Isn't it something of like artificial intelligence or something?
No, not
Like
really.
androids or something like that?
You're almost yes.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Okay,
Yeah.
my perception of it's very low.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the first film, and I think it takes place in like soon. I don't know
Really?
if it was like, yeah.
2023?
It might. I don't know. I can't remember if it was if it's been passed already. I don't know if it was in like 2019. But I think the first film is based in 2019.
When did that
I
come out?
think-
Like in the 80s?
I think.
Right? That
Yes. Yeah. I want to
Okay.
say yeah. I don't think it said 2019, but it's pretty recent. Like
Sure.
the year that it was based
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
It could be 2019. I just don't remember. But basically, humanity found a way to create humans that were, or to like synthesize human-like beings that were really resilient in like mining and doing work, and so you could have
so
like
they're just like slaves, basically.
yeah,
Like
yep.
laborers.
Yeah, but they're called replicants, and they're basically built, sort of, or just created. But like you'll have like some dude that can lift like a ton of like they're beings that are like physically superior.
They're not organic though, right?
Yes. I think they are organic. I
Oh
think,
wow.
I think they're basically just like superhumans created in a lab.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really fascinating.
And so it's like Earth is very like commercialized, and there's a lot of like ads and stuff you see everywhere. And it's dark and it's dingy.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford is a Blade Runner, and he is basically tasked with hunting down and killing replicants that have made it to Earth.
So we got Indiana Jones as like this futuristic film.
Yeah,
That's cool. That sounds really cool. Yeah.
Mhm. And so the movie he has to hunt down a group of them that have made it, because I believe they're on a different planet, and humans can't survive on the planet to do the hard labor, but they sent the replicants down there, and so then I guess a couple of them found a way to get to Earth, and now they're living on their own. But he has to hunt them down because they're not in the world of that. They're not. They're products. They're not really people.
Yeah.
And then Blade Runner 2049, which I think is even better. I think certain aspects of
that's crazy.
Yeah, certain aspects of Blade Runner, I think like were okay, especially the last. The last like essentially final battle, I think was very intense and very well directed. But the second one, I don't want to spoil a whole lot because even the premise kind of messes with the ending of the first movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was directed by Dennis or did I don't know what it. I don't really know how to pronounce his name. It might be Denis Villeneuve or Denis Villeneuve.
Oh, okay.
I forget.
I don't know.
He did Dune recently.
Oh,
the remake of Dune.
That's
yeah.
funny. I was just thinking about that film.
If you've ever heard of, there's a movie called Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Very striking visual style that I personally like.
In the new film, 2049.
Oh, especially in 2049. Yeah. One of the most visually spectacular films I've ever seen. I would say. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think he builds upon the first Blade Runner film incredibly in that.
Oh,
movie.
so he did both?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry.
Didn't do the. No. He didn't do the first one. But 2049 was a continuation of it, and sort of I guess maybe a love letter.
Yeah.
And it built upon it in ways that I really liked. Like it
Cool.
just visually was very striking.
That's really nice.
But yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
So then I guess maybe shall we move the discussion to just stuff we want to do, or just outline like some of the stuff we want to do?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I think for the most part it's kind of like free form. This podcast is like a free form discussion.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
we're just like talking about things we enjoy. One thing, and I guess I'll do it now. We want to like recommend a movie, so like both of us to watch. It can be a film we've already seen before. We want to re-talk about in the next episode.
Yeah.
But it's also like an opportunity. So like the viewers, everyone who's watching, you can watch this film. Then next time we do an episode, we can all talk about it. So you can put in the comments, and it'd be great.
Yeah.
So the film I wanted to do, The Truman Show. This is one of my absolute favorites. You could even argue it my top 5. Awesome film. It's like the one Jim Carrey film where he's not like a funny, goofy guy all the time. Like it's funny, but it's so different. To me, this is like, you ever seen Uncut Gems?
No, I've heard of it.
That's good. That's a really good one. So that's like an Adam Sandler film. And like people really like that because it was like Adam Sandler doing a more serious role. And that's kind of how I feel about The Truman Show in terms of Jim Carrey, because he's funny, but he's more serious. He's like toned down because Jim Carrey's always like so elevated, like Ace Ventura, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like The Truman Show, I'm not going to spoil it. And if you're going to watch it, please do not like look up like what's going to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
It's such a interesting concept. And
Yeah.
It speaks a lot about society and lot of good themes. And we'll talk about it.
Yeah, there's not much you can say without really spoiling it. It's just you got to watch it. You got to watch it to know it. You know?
You do. So if you guys are interested and you want to discuss that in the next episode, please watch it.
Yeah. Another thing I think.
Sure.
Maybe we could discuss, and this is a little more free form, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Like, as it happens. We could discuss maybe movie news. I know.
That's a great idea.
I have a lot of opinions about, like, and I mean, I'm also a big superhero buff, but it doesn't have to just be for, like, stuff like that.
Sure.
We can discuss, like, insider news, like what movies are being made.
That's a good one.
Like, rumors. Or even, like, big changes. Like, I know at DC they had like, and of course, there's the stuff. There's like the whole controversy with like Ezra Miller and stuff like that. With the Flash.
That'd be interesting to get into.
But they were banking on like the Flash movie, and then they were going to make Batgirl, and it was going to be this big change for DC.
Yep.
And then they ended up canceling it. You know,
they canned Batgirl. Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Right, and it was supposed to be like Flash was supposed to be Ben Affleck's last film, but then he shows up in Aquaman 2, and so
what?
Now that these movies are canceled, the direction of DC is like.
What do we do?
Yeah, and so I don't know if it's going to be for the better, but there's like, but yeah, no, I think like discussion topics like that we can discuss like what we want to see, or just if there's new set photos or anything like that.
Yeah. Or maybe like some stuff we're working on in our own time.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then I guess there's also just like I feel like we could just do in general discussions, and maybe the fans could even contribute. Like if there's a certain film you really want us to discuss about
For sure.
or talk about, Yeah, we could absolutely talk about that because we want to make a community where we share a lot. It's definitely a collaborative effort, not only between Mason and I, but I think with the fans that enjoy film, because it's a medium that it's intensely creative. There's no cut and dry way to do it.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of fans for everything out there. So
absolutely, yeah, for sure.
And then what else do you think would you want to get out of the Real Radar?
I guess one other thing. So like we're like in the ensemble room in Mercyhurst University. We both go here. Sam said he was a senior. I'm a junior here. I guess one big thing about this podcast is that it's gonna move. The setting is gonna change because like we're both busy guys, and let's say we can't like get a studio or something. We're just gonna go somewhere. Yeah, we have these 2 chairs, both are directing chairs. We're just gonna go somewhere that we like. Yeah. Bam. New setting every time. If you're only listening to the audio, I'm sorry. We'll at least tell you where we're at.
But if you want to check out our YouTube, we'll have videos up and stuff like that. But
sure.
Yeah, for our listeners, not much is gonna change.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, certainly during like the warmer months, I feel like maybe some more outside episodes. There's a lot of really great spaces on campus, or even just around the PA area.
That'd be ideal.
Yeah. But yeah, even with our, the whole goal is that we're mobile. We move around. So yeah.
I guess closing statements. Unless you had something else you want to talk about.
I don't got much else to say. I guess for the intro. So
yeah.
I guess if you have any closing statements,
I was gonna say if you're interested in this project, anyone who likes film, maybe they make films in their own time. You watch a lot of films. Consider like subscribing. Checking us out on all our platforms. Yeah, we're gonna be on Spotify, SoundCloud. We're gonna try to get Apple Music, YouTube. Yeah, obviously a lot of the big podcast platforms. So please, share this. Because this is something that we want. This is a passion of ours, right? And we want to like make this a bigger part of our lives. So like, please share this. It's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, for sure. I think. I don't really have much else to say. I think this is a pretty eventful first episode.
We had a lot to talk about.
I'm definitely excited to see like what else we talk about.
For sure.
Where else this could lead. But yeah, I'm very glad to be doing something like this. Yeah. And I'm really excited to see where we go with it and how the fans of the Real Radar are going to react to all this. So I guess it's an exciting beginning. Yeah.
It is. It's a good start.
Cool. Well, I think that's it for us.
Cool.
So thank you for listening to the Real Radar podcast with Sam and Mason. I think we're generally going to shoot to upload our podcast every Sunday. But we are busy. Yeah. We are very busy people, so I guess the most consistent schedule we could do is Sunday, and we'll shoot for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just generally every Sunday. But thank you guys for listening, or thank you everyone for listening. And we hope you come back to listen to another.
Yep. So just follow us on all of our social media. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
I think that's as far as just social media goes.
Just social media. Yeah. That's where we're going to be posting news updates and all other sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.